What does it need to master the future? I think to have a platform where all stakeholders of global society are engaged. Governments, business, civil society, the young generation, and I could go on, I think is a first step to meet all the challenges.
Master the future. That is what we're hearing coming out of this year's annual meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. A massive political and economic project that seeks to integrate the world into coordinated international institutions, all managed and controlled by a solitary technocratic elite, what they're calling a global collaboration village.
The Global Collaboration Village is a pioneering effort to use the metaverse for the public good, to create global cooperation and to strengthen global cooperation in the metaverse or using metaverse technologies.
But is the future that's actually emerging really something that these billionaires and bureaucrats can master? Join me in this video as we discover that the world has something very different in store for these managerial elite. Ironically, they are the ones who in the end will be mastered. The Great Reset is the name given to the 50th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos, headed by Klaus Schwab, where all the world's power brokers, politicians, billionaires get together and basically plot how they can better manage the world. The WEF believes that a globalized world is best managed by a self-selected coalition of multinational corporations, governments, and civil society organizations, very much like the Open Society Foundations of George Soros, who work in tandem to impose policies and values that they deem to be of most value. Most particularly, the Great Reset involves strategizing how the pandemic restrictions could be used to intensify their managerial rule effectively over the whole of the world, particularly its common financial systems. Now, what's very important to understand here is that the WEF operates according to the logic of what's known as a unipolar world, a world characterized by a single pole of power, which is then able to remake the world in its own image. Now, that sole power since the fall of the Soviet Union has, of course, been the United States, with the EU in Brussels and the WEF in Davos together creating what scholars have called the liberal international order. Under this order, the WEF has basically had the green light to do whatever it wants, which includes proposing the implementation of a Chinese-inspired social credit system.
So we have to define how the world should look like, which we want to come out of this transformation period. I respect China's achievements, which are tremendous over the last over 40 years. I think it's a role model for many countries, but I think also we should leave it to each country to make its own decision what system it wants to adopt. And I think we should be very careful in imposing systems. But the Chinese model is certainly a very attractive model for quite a number of countries.
Now, it's important to recognize this is basically what the WEF is. The Davos managerial worldview pits the obligations to solve the world's problems not on governments or corporations or big business, but rather the full brunt to change the world will be borne by you. And this is key. It will be borne by you as a consumer. And that's where Davos comes in. At any Davos gathering over and over again, you're going to hear speakers talk about creating business conditions that in effect control the choices of consumers in order to, quote, make a better world. They're not about finding solutions to problems in their own spheres of influence. They're not about blaming governments or blaming corporations for all the problems in the world. No. They're all about shifting responsibility for all of that over to you. You are the problem. You make wrong choices. So your choices have to be controlled. But with the advent of the managerial elite's devotion to woke ideology that refuses to entertain even the slightest semblance of dissent, more and more populations are openly declaring that this WEF mastered world is the last world they would ever want to be a part of. And they're doing something about it. And they're doing that big time. And that, as it turns out, is the real future. A future the WEF cannot master. But first, make sure you click on the link below and head on over to my special website for Ready Project Food Supply. You know we should never, ever wait for an emergency to happen, only to regret that we didn't prepare. And no one makes preparing for an emergency more ridiculously easy and affordable than our good friends over at the Ready Project Food Supply. Gang, their food kits last up to 25 years in storage. They include breakfast, lunches, and dinners. And if you act right now, you're going to save 25% off a full 4-week emergency food supply when you click on that link below to my special website. So whatever you do, gang, do not wait. Click on that link below and start building your emergency food supply today. There is a massive worldwide resistance against this technocratic tyranny that's forging what Reason magazine is calling the Great Escape. First, the rise of Russia and China, as well as India's major international powers, has replaced a unipolar world with what's now called a multipolar world, a world with a number of great political and economic powers. And as a result, Davos is confronting a new world order wherein its one-size-fits-all management vision has little influence. As a result, all over the globe, a parallel economy totally free from wokeness and built around traditional core values is rising up and flourishing. Scholars have noted that patriot entrepreneurs around the world are currently investing in and financing numerous projects that seek to provide alternatives to woke corporations that are acting in tandem with woke governments to implement something akin to the Chinese social credit system throughout the world. And those scholars are calling the builders of this world frontier innovators. The frontier is simply the innovation centers and entrepreneurial activity located outside Silicon Valley and its counterparts like LA, New York, London, and the like. So this is an alternative economy that's rising up that includes companies in Kenya as well as Kansas, in Uganda as well as Utah, in India as well as Indiana. And so we're seeing the rising of nothing less than a parallel society at all levels. We're seeing the rise of international payment systems that are fast replacing Western globalist banks. We're seeing the rise of parallel economic and political alliances like BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which together comprise over 60% of the world's population. Here at home, we're of course seeing the rise of parallel news media like yours truly is doing here, parallel social media like the new Patriot-based Twitter, parallel cryptocurrencies, parallel schools like homeschooling and the classical Christian school movement, parallel colleges, particularly conservative colleges that are actually flourishing. We've got parallel payment processing systems, parallel medical insurance, healthcare cost-sharing organizations, parallel job finder sites like Red Balloon, made up completely of anti-woke companies. We could go on and on and on. We got parallel satellites that Elon Musk has been putting up in outer space. He's talking about creating an entire parallel phone and telecommunicative system. And here's the best part. It's all totally decentralized. And that's because it's part of what's called the rise of the network society. There's no centralized nucleus to take it out, and there are constantly new and innovative ways of getting around any barriers that technocratic institutions may try to put up against it. So, as it turns out, it's not just that the world that's rising has no need to be mastered. The decentralized multipolar world that's rising can't be mastered. And so the clowns at Davos will continue to plot away at their silly Great Reset. But what's really happening all around them is the Great Escape. An escape from their control and coercion. An escape that promises to be just beginning. As always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You'll definitely want to check out my latest video on Bill Maher leaving Neil deGrasse Tyson absolutely speechless on woke COVID-19. Hysteria. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.